Welcome to our channel Phenom Literarians. Today we are up to the topic literary devices. Let us start with the introduction to literary devices. Literary devices are techniques that writers use to express their ideas and enhance their writing. A literary device is a departure from the ordinary form of expression or ordinary clause of idea in order to produce a greater effect. Literary devices can be classified on the basis of resemblance, such as in simile, metaphor, etc., contrast, as in antithesis and epigram, association, as in metonymy and synecdoche, construction of a sentence, as in climax and anticlimax. Literary devices highlight important concepts in a text, strengthen the narrative, and helps readers connect to the characters and themes. These devices serve a wide range of purpose in literature. Some might work on an intellectual level, while others have a more emotional effect. They may also work subtly to improve the flow and pacing of your writing. No matter what, if you are looking to inject something special into your prose, literary devices are a great place to start. Next, we can move on to various literary devices. First, we are starting with simile, a comparison between two different kinds of objects having at least one point in common, and usually introduced by words such as, like, as, or so. A simile draws resemblance between two things by saying thing A is like thing B, or thing A is as adjective as thing B. Unlike a metaphor, a simile does not possess that these things are the same, only that they are alike. As a result, it is probably the most common literary devices in writing. Here are certain examples: as proud as a peacock, as bold as brass. And also, a comparison of two things of the same kind is not simile. And now we are moving on to metaphor. A metaphor is a comparison between two things as if they were one. It is also known as implied simile. That is, a metaphor compares two similar things by saying that one of them is the other. As you would likely expect when it comes to literary devices, this one is a heavy hitter. And if a standard metaphor doesn't do the trick, a writer can always try an extended metaphor, a metaphor that expands on the initial comparison through more elaborate parallels. Here are certain examples. The camel is the ship of the desert. Life is a dream. And next is personification. Personification is a literary device attributing human characteristics to inanimate objects or to animals. Poets commonly use this technique to create images in the reader's mind and to give their writing a greater sensory appeal. Personification uses human traits to describe non-human things. And personification means the behavior of the thing does not actually change. It's personhood in figurative language only. Here are certain examples. In these lines, the poet has personified the grey-eyed moon smiles on the frowning night, cheeking the eastern cloud with streaks of light. In describing the morning as smiling at the night, he is personifying the morning and establishing a romantic setting for Romeo and Juliet, love to unfold. And next is symbolism. Symbolism is a poetic device which is used to represent or recall something else possessing similar qualities, especially an object representing an abstract throughout or quality. Symbolism. Author turns to tangible symbols to present abstract concepts and ideas in their stories. Symbols typically derive from objects or non-human. For instance, a dove might represent peace, or raven might represent death. Here are certain examples. In the poem The Road Not Taken, the road symbolizes the journey of life and the fork in the road is symbolic to the choices one makes in the journey. In Ode to the West Wind is symbolic of both death and rebirth. And next is apostrophe. Apostrophe is a direct address to the dead, to the absent, or to a personified object or idea. It is a special form of personification. The definition of apostrophe as a literary device is when a speaker breaks off from addressing one party and instead addresses a third party. The third party may be an individual, either present or absent in the scene. It can also be an inanimate object like a dragon or an abstract concept such as death or the sun. Because there is a clear speaker and change of addressee, apostrophe is most commonly found in plays. It does, however, sometimes occur in poetry and prose. Here are certain examples. O ancestors, what would you say about this matter? Antony addresses Caesar's corpse immediately following the assassination in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Here are the lines. Oh, pardon me, though bleeding peers of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers, thou art the runs of the noblest man that ever lived in the tides of the time. And next we have is hyperbole. Hyperbole in statement is made empathetic by overstatement. Actually, hyperbole is an exaggerated statement that emphasizes the significance of the statement's meaning. When a friend says, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in a million years," that's hyperbole. Here are certain examples. Our history professor is so old that he has lived through everything we have learned about ancient India. It was so cold, even the polar bears were wearing jackets. Our library is so old, its book pages are numbered with Roman numerals. It was written by Romans. And next is euphemism. Description of a disagreeable thing by an agreeable name. That is, an euphemism is an indirect, polite way of describing something too inappropriate or awkward to address directly. However, most people will still understand the truth about what's happening. Here are some examples. He has fallen asleep. That is, he is dead. Are you telling me a fairy tale? That is a lie. And next is antithesis. In antithesis, a striking opposition or contrast of words or sentiments is made in the same sentence, employed to secure emphasis. That is, antithesis, for example, when something or someone is the opposite of another thing or person. As a rhetorical device, antithesis pair exact opposite or contrasting ideas in a parallel grammatical structure. The effects of antithesis can be powerful. Here are certain examples. Man proposes, God disposes. To err is human, to forgive is divine. Many are called, but few are chosen. And next is alliteration. Alliteration is the occurrence of same sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. That is, alliteration describes a series of words in quick succession that all start with the same letter or sound. It lends a pleasing cadence to prose and poetry both. And if you have any doubts about the impact of alliteration, consider the following unforgettable titles: Love's Labour's Lost, Sense and Sensibility, and The Haunting of Hill House. Here are certain examples. With many a curvy my blanks I fret, by many a felt and fallow, and many a fairy forlorn set, with willow, weed and mallow. It was written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And next is refrain. A refrain is a form of repetition in poems in which the same line or part of it is replaced at the end of each verse. Here are certain examples. The line "For many may come and many may go, but I go on forever" is repeated in the poem The Brook by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And next is oxymoron. Oxymoron, a special form of antithesis whereby two contradictory qualities are predicted at once of the same thing. That is, oxymoron comes from two contradictory words that describes one thing, while juxtaposition contrasts two story elements. Oxymorons are about the actual words you are using. Here are certain examples. So innocent art, so cunningly simple. She accepted it as the kind of cruelty of the surgeon's knife. And next is epigram, a brief pointed saying frequently introducing antithetical ideas which excite, surprise, and arrest attention. That is, epigram is a rhetorical device that is a memorable, brief, interesting, and surprising satirical statement. This literary device is commonly used in poetry, where it appears as a short satirical poem with a single subject ending in an ingenious or witty thought. Here is certain examples. The child is the father of the man. Fool rush where angels fear to death. And next we have is metonymy. Metonymy, a literary change of name, an object designated by the name of something which is generally associated with it. That is, metonymy is like symbolism, but even more so. A metonymy doesn't just symbolize something else. It comes to serve as a synonym for that thing or things typically. A single object embodies an entire institution. Here are certain examples for metonymy: the bench for the judges, the laurel for success, the crown for the king. And next is synecdoche. Synecdoche, a part is used to designate the whole or the whole to designate a part. That is, synecdoche is the usage of a part to represent the whole. That is, rather than an object or title that's merely associated with larger concept, synecdoche must actually be attached in some way, either to the name or to the large whole itself. Here are certain examples. Part used to designate the whole. Give us this day our daily bread, that is food. He has many mouths, that is people to feed. Whole used to designate a part. Indian cricket team won the 2020 World Cup. And next is litotes. In litotes, an affirmative is conveyed by negation of the opposite, the effect being to suggest a strong expression by means of a weaker. It is the opposite of hyperbole. That is, litotes is the signature literary device of the double negative. Writers use litotes to express certain sentiments through their opposites by saying that opposite is not the case. Don't worry, it makes sense with the examples. Here are certain examples. The man is no fool, that is very clever. I am not a little is equal to greatly surprised. And next is climax. It is a literary device in which the parts of a sentence or paragraph are also arranged that each is built above its preceder in importance or impressiveness. That is, the climax is the turning point of a narrative work, is it in its point of highest tension and drama, or it is the time when the action starts during which the solution is given. The climax of a story is a literary element. Here is certain examples. One equal temper of heroic hearts made weak by time and fate but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. It was from Ulysses Tennyson. What a piece of work is man, how noble in reason, how finite in faculties, in action, how like an angel. And next is anticlimax. Anticlimax is the opposite of climax, a drop, often sudden and unexpected, from a dignified or important idea or situation to a trivial one, or a decent form something sublime to something ridiculous. In fiction and drama, this refers to action which is disappointing in contrast to the previous moment of intense interest or anything which follows the climax. The effect may be comic and is often intended to be. Here are certain examples. The great Dalhousie, he the god of war, lieutenant, colonel to the Earl of Mar. The pirates finally found the treasure chest, only to find it empty. They work so hard to get the chest, and it's a failure. And next is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a word or a grouping of words that imitates the sound it is describing, suggesting its source object. That is, amusingly, onomatopoeia refers to the word that sound like the thing they are referring to. Well-known instances of onomatopoeia include whiz, snap, grunt, and Here are certain examples like that, such as click, bang, clang, bush, bang, or animal noises such as onic, slurp, and meow. I hope you all enjoyed certain literary devices. Thank you so much for listening.